Contingency log number 89. Codename: Rebel Princess. Growing older is something we've all dealt with in our time, an ordeal that I'm sure many of us dreaded in the moment. I know I did. But for those of us not driven by trauma, we may often wonder just where it is that our lives are taking us. The uncertainty of the future often at times being a paralyzing fear that can hold one back, too afraid of choosing a path which they may either come to regret or may not come to fruition as they desired. But for the rest, their lives are chosen for them, predetermined without their input, and more often than not, they are unable to escape this course of their life. For a time, this best summed up the life for Star Butterfly, daughter of the current queen, Queen Moon, and would be next in line to take the throne had all gone well. Though despite the queen's attempts to rein in her daughter, Star Butterfly seemed to be far too free a spirit to conform to what had become the status quo for generations. In response, Star's parents sent her away to a distant dimension, one where they believed she would learn to control herself. Though if I'm being honest, it seemed nothing more than an attempt to keep her out of the public eye, as her outbursts were seen unfitting for a princess and future queen. Nothing more than another means of trying to force her to conform, but this decision would turn out to be the best choice for Star's development. As now that she was no longer under the watchful eye of her family, Star was finally able to not only branch out, but start to understand who she was by living not as a princess, but as a person. She wound bond with another family, knowing what it's like to be praised for being different rather than be told to keep it hidden. Made friends who care for her true self rather than a farce. And through them she would learn more, not just about herself, but about the world beyond her. No longer behind the protective walls of her castle, Star would also find herself under attack by outside forces, ones which she would become adept in combating, not through physical combat, but via the application of magic, wielding it through the wand passed down for generations. Star would use spells passed down from prior queens, along with some that she had created herself. These constant brushes with combat, as well as a freedom to use and often stumble when using her magic, has allowed Star to grow much faster than she would have otherwise, even once being stated to have magical potential which surpassed her own mother. If nothing else showing the clear difference between nature and nurture, as I doubt she would have seen the same growth if she'd stayed back home. She would eventually grow to a point where she would no longer need her wand to use magic, even obtain a transformation, referred to as dipping down. Star Butterfly will enter an insectoid-like form, not just boosting her already impressive magical output, but also grant her access to other abilities as well. You know, looking at the form now, that butterfly surname is a lot more accurate than I thought it'd be. Which is interesting to say the least, given Star shares no blood relation with that of the original family lineage, as she would discover that the woman she once believed to be her great-grandmother had actually abandoned the man who was once her husband, choosing instead to wed with a monster known as Globgor. In case I ever need to make a contingency for Queen Eclipsa and her family, I'll keep it brief. The child which Eclipsa and Globgor produced would be cast away, while a completely unrelated child would be put in her place. This child becoming the new bloodline that would lead up to Star, a truth which she didn't accept well, and would lead to Star giving up what was once her birthright, choosing to right a wrong and return her wand to Eclipsa so that she may reclaim what was owed to her. In all honesty, Star became not what her family wanted, but what they needed. Her eyes opened not just to the injustice done to the family name, but also towards the prejudice that the monsters of her world had suffered through for generations. Star would do everything she could to fix it, though some may question if her choices in the end were the right one or not. But that is neither here nor there. In the end, she gave it all up, her birthright, her magic, and her original homeland, in order to save the lives of those who had suffered enough. Now by this point, it's pretty clear that Star would be considered a non-threat, no longer having access to magic after it was completely destroyed. In my experience, nothing will fully be destroyed. One way or another, it will find a means to return. For all I know, it would take something as simple as entering another dimension with magic in it. So we're going to err on the side of caution and prepare just in case. As stated, Star has a few means of wielding magic, each with their own strengths and weaknesses. But as with anything magical, I am prepared to combat it with anti-magic metals. With hope, it can give me enough of a resistance to her attacks if need be. That said, I still need to be wary, as I doubt normal anti-magic armor would do much to defend me from a horde of warnicorns, or a spider with a machine gun for a hat. I've long since given up on trying to make sense of her spells, given that many of the spells Star creates can come straight from her own imagination, which is why in this contingency, the wand is vital. While having been a part of the royal family since the day it was created, the truth is that anyone is capable of wielding its power, and upon making contact with it, the wand will warp its appearance to match that of whoever is holding it, granting them access to its magic and be able to cast spells of their own. And while I do not have access to her spells, I have memorized quite a few in my time, each cast from a variety of spellcasters, both friend and foe alike. But even in the case that I didn't, the magic of the wand is surprisingly lenient on how to control it, as seen when Star's friend Marco managed to use the wand with improvised spells. It's clear that it can also depend on the imagination of the wielder, and my imagination is a bit dark, which if I'm lucky can grant me an advantage against her. But as always, especially when a child is involved, I'd like to avoid a confrontation whenever possible. And while Star's magic is impressive, her physicality falls short. Sure, she may have been shown to be competent when fighting some monsters, though in truth the monsters of whom she's battled are not the prime example of their species, and for the most part, her preferred method of attack is using various spells to blast her opponents away. But I'm not fool enough to confront her head-on. Instead, I've chosen a more covert method. For starters, I've had Damien pose as an Arabian exchange student. He was taken in by the Diaz family, something they are accustomed to doing. In his time there, he's managed to keep tabs with Star, as well as place several traps along the house, not just for protection from outside attacks, but also to use should Star ever make it necessary. He has voiced some irritations, however, as the eldest son Marco has been wary of him since the moment he entered the home. And finally, I've made preparations with Zatanna. It was her idea to create a seal, one which, when attached to Star's body, will prevent her from using magic at all, essentially trapping it within her body with no means to tap into it so long as the seal is active. After that, depending on her actions, I can either attempt to talk her down, or if she still shows too much resistance, knock her out with a strong enough sedative. This will be the first thing I attempt should I need to confront her. With any luck, it can all be complete without any issues. She is, after all, someone who shows incredible promise, potential which, if given proper guidance, could grow into something that could be a great aid to the realm of magic, something I'm sure many would like to see. If you also have a character you wish for me to cover, or just want to support this channel, I'll have a link to my Ko-fi page. There will also be a Google Doc with the list of characters who have ever been done or already commissioned by others.